All right, hey everyone, welcome to the Color Wheel Workshop info session. I'm Todd Casey. Today I'm just going to go over what the Color Wheel Workshop is. It should answer a lot of questions, but there will be time when I'm done with the presentation for anyone to ask any questions as well. So let's start. Here is the presentation, and I'm just going to play the slideshow and walk you through it. So, welcome to the Color Wheel Workshop info session 2026. Crazy that it's 2026. The color wheel that I use is the traditional color wheel, and this is the one that's in the Oil Painter's Color Handbook. Going to go over what that is in just a minute. The dates for this workshop is at night. It's a new time slot that I'm trying out. We did it on Saturdays. We've done it during the day. But this one is going to be Wednesday nights from 7 to 8:30 Eastern Time. That's in the U.S. There's a lot of people that join from around the world. So I usually try to put a time converter in the Slack channel that we're going to work in. I'm going to go over where everything is posted and all that. February 4th is the first session. Once you sign up, you get access, which I'm going to post everything today, to how to set up your color wheel and also the value lesson. So we're doing it a little bit different if you have taken the workshop in the past, that we're just going to jump right into the assignments. You'll have access and can start watching the videos today if you sign up. And then week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're just going to go red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. The objective of this is really to give you the basic notes on how to mix a light to dark version of a color. This is something that just unlocked everything for me, because what you're doing is saying that every tube of paint is red, orange, yellow, green, blue, or violet. There's really no such thing as black or brown or white. They have a hue attached to them. So to find out what those hues are, like burnt umber is a dark red-orange, is when you would use it. So it really kind of locates everything and it creates a little bit of a map. This was really, for me, all the color theory that I needed, theory quote unquote, because really in a traditional manner you're trying to learn to mix something from light to dark in the right hue. It's an extension of Michael Aviano's teaching. I always have to give him credit. When I wrote the Oil Painter's Color Handbook, I went to Michael's home and spoke with him about putting this in my book, and he was totally on board with it. And I studied with Michael's student, Carlos Madrid, who taught it to me, and then again, it just kind of unlocked everything for me. It was like, oh, that's it. That's it. It's really just a light to dark version of every color. Essentially what it is that you're taking and you're associating it with a map. So you learn to put a light to dark version of every color, and you're locating where burnt umber is and raw umber is, and also ivory black. So ivory black is a dark purple blue, which is why when you add it to colors, it's going to shift it in color space. All of this information, by the way, I just have to say it, is in the Oil Painter's Color Handbook. The color wheel on the back of the book is actually Michael Aviano's color wheel. He created that, I think, in about 1970. And he used the Munsell wheel. He moved away from Munsell and moved towards traditional color wheel because that's what he enjoyed. He liked it better. There's actually a whole interview on YouTube that I will put in the resources channel in Slack, so everybody can I can build all these things around the workshop. Just wanted to say, there's another book in the works, the Oil Painter's Color Workbook, which comes out this September. I think we're on schedule to do it. You're looking at a mock-up very early of what it may look like. There will not be any Latin in the book or on the flap. This is dummy text, so just a little sneak peek into the future there. All right, the general format for the workshop and the way that they mostly work is that we're going to meet on Wednesday nights from 7 to 8:30 Eastern Time U.S. We meet 6 times. We meet over Zoom. Everything's recorded so you can watch it after the session is over. I usually get up in about a half hour to an hour after. If there's anything to edit or clean, it takes a little bit longer. We enter in at about 7:05 I start, and then I start with a 15 to 20 minute lecture, just like I'm doing right now, slideshow, in which I'll talk you through it. And I'm going to show you some of the slides from all the, you're going to get 6 lectures, mini lectures, I should call them, and demonstrations. So essentially what we do is we begin with a slideshow for 15 to 20 minutes. We'll watch a video after that, which has to do with what the lesson is for the week. For in red, we're going to talk about how to mix a light to dark version of red and then apply it to a form. We end with a 15 to 30 minute Q&A. Sometimes it goes over. Briley is probably going to be helping, and she's a color nerd. And sometimes the discussions are very fun and fruitful, and they go all over the place because sometimes people hear something over there and they want me to tell them my thoughts on it, which is totally fine. But color is really encompassing light, material, and also perception. So there's a ton to talk about in all this stuff. Everything's recorded, so you get to watch it over and over as long as you have access to the class. We post everything in Slack, and Slack is just a channel so that, it's just us. It's kind of like having a door to a studio, and we close it. So it's just us, and you can feel comfortable, and we can talk about color, and you can ask questions in it. All the recordings, all the information is in this one platform. It's a wonderful little platform I've used for like 5 years now. This is what it looks like, and I blurred everybody out just so that for privacy sake on the left, you can DM me if you have questions that are want to be direct. So this is where you'll get the Zoom link. There's also going to be a resources channel, materials list, ask questions, and you can see that setting up your value scale on the left is already there, and a value scale. Those are going to open today. So if you've signed up by the end of today, I'll have those open so you can jump right in. And this is what some of the other channels have looked like through the years. I've taught, again, over 5 years now in Slack. And it's just a great little channel. You can get it on your phone or tablet if you want to, or you can do a desktop. And what I do is I'll post week 1 demonstration, and then if you sign up for feedback, there'll be a week 1 homework, so that we kind of separate everything so it's in its right place. That's where the submission would be. I usually do some good notes on like what I'm looking for and how to post. And then once you do submit, if you do, this is another one from Drawing for Painters back in the day. I record a video in Photoshop, a screen recording, and I'll work right over your submission and give you feedback on my thoughts to help you. And then under it, we can go back and forth. If you have any questions off of the feedback that I've given, you're more than welcome to respond. You could put a heart emoji. That's a kind of cool aspect of this. It turns into a bit of a community. People put thumbs up. Generally, these color wheel workshops are big. I've had anywhere from 30 to 80 people in them, and I usually do them once or twice a year. So, there's going to be a lot of traffic and people adding emojis and watching feedback videos and all that stuff. So it's a great place to organize it. That's really one of the major reasons why we use this platform. And again, it all goes and is recorded to Vimeo. You get to download your feedback videos. You actually get to watch everybody's feedback videos, and you'll see me talking about how to, improve them. So I encourage everyone, even if it's you're just taking it as a view only, to watch everybody else's videos. It's a beautiful part of it all. All right, and then when you click on it, it's going to take you to Vimeo, and that's where you will download the video. I actually add instructions now on how to do that. So I wouldn't say it's foolproof. You're more than welcome to ask questions, and Briley and I, or Julie too, who's taken a lot of my classes, can help you. Generally, whoever's in here who has taken classes will help out. It's always a wonderful community of artists. All right, then the demonstration videos, you can download them, just so you know. That's access to it in the space. There's a couple of them that are on Patreon, which you can access right now. I think this red one is up there already. And the PDFs, you're welcome to download them and keep them for yourself, but don't email them to everyone. All right, and then full view versus view only. You can participate in discussions. You get to come to the Zoom sessions. You ask questions in the live Zoom Q&A, like today. You have access to the videos and the replays. The only thing you don't get is individual feedback. The individual feedback that I give is generally 5 to 10 minutes of a recorded draw over in Photoshop. You'll have access to the content for 4 weeks after the last class. After that, Slack begins to kind of eat itself. It begins deleting content over 90 days. So I just try to stay a step ahead of it. I'll post the day in which you have the last access to it. Sometimes you have a little bit more time, but please don't email me after and say, I didn't get everything. You have to be on top of it. So set reminders and use a calendar is what I'd recommend. All right, if you're enrolled in the full workshop, I have to say this because it's happened in the past, and it's sad because there's always one rotten apple that spoils everything. But you have to post your own work because somebody else one time posted somebody else's work and it had somebody else's signature on it. It was bizarre. It was awkward. You will not post work done in previous classes. This is not a place for, if you painted a red sphere, to post your old red sphere painting. You'll only post work that's specific to the assignment. You will not share the videos or content with any other people. Don't be rude. It's not a place to talk about politics, religion, or money. That's kind of, when I worked corporate, that's the 3 things we never talked about. Why this class? Like I said, this was all I really needed to begin color and understanding of it, how to make a light to dark version of everything. Before you can express yourself with color, you should be able to understand it and understand what we see. And that's what I go over, which is kind of mostly the science of it all. And then we can get into expression after. What's a color string? A color string is a light to dark version of a hue or color. It's also referred to as a color scale. There's a lot of overlap between this and music. So it's really just understanding how to make a light to dark version of every color. That's why every week we're going to work in a different hue, and then we're going to add in little pieces of data and information as we move along. This is what it's going to look like every week. You'll have access to the PDFs. Again, these are in the Oil Painter's Color Handbook. So if you have the Oil Painter's Color Handbook, feel free to open it and take a look. But I will show these in PDF form. There's one video usually of me doing like step 17 violet, and then the secondary color mixture is like violet blue or violet red. Is up to you to mix them. I'm giving you all the notes on how to do it. It would be maybe pedantic for me to make a video on each one of these, but I'll show you how to do it and the way of thinking, which is really the most important part of this. And that's just the string close up and personal so you can see it. And it's just a light to dark version. If you were to turn this to black and white, you would see that it's just a value scale. And that's why we start with value, because we're trying to understand value. So the pre-workshop, you're going to have access to how to make a value scale, which is the first exercise. Pre-workshop is, I say pre because the first class I think is it February 7th or the 4th? I can't remember. The 4th? Thank you. And you get access to these videos right away. So you can start to set everything up. You can begin asking questions. And then there's also an optional exercise on painting a sphere, which I say just jump right in. We need to kind of see where everybody is at. And then we're going to get into the information, and then you're welcome to do the white sphere again at the end if you'd like. From there is when we're going to get into painting a red string, painting an orange string, painting a yellow string. And again, they begin to shift because this is lower chroma. And then I begin to show you how to lower chroma on a form. But it's also informative because I'm going to show you light as it relates to a form as well. And that's how we painted. I went to Water Street Atelier, studied with Jacob Collins. I also studied with Max Ginsberg. And that's kind of the two different ways that I work between. Is a very conceptual, optical, perceptual way of painting. It's not just copying what I see up in front of me. I'm articulating everything. It's a deep understanding of light as it relates to form, which I'm going to go over. Then we get into green, and then we get into red. So again, every week there's going to be a new video. I also put videos on simple objects as well. It gets tougher. Most of them are fruit and vegetable, but there's no blue real fruit vegetables out there. So it gets a little wacky because I paint a balloon dog. And then for the last one, I do a purple sphere, and then I do a purple rose painting, which is actually the painting that may be on the next book cover. So you'll see how I basically take it and I'm using it to begin thinking about a painting, and then I break out of it, because string painting is interesting, but objects are typically more than one hue. All right, I love this quote by Joseph Albers. Good painting, good coloring is comparable to good cooking. Even a good cooking recipe demands taste and repeated tasting while it's being followed. And the best tasting still depends on a cook with taste. So even when you get all this information and you can understand color, it still takes years to refine what your taste is. And then you have to look all the time, and you have to go to museums, and then you begin to kind of craft what your taste is. All right, here's some of just the slides from the mini lectures, which I think are it's so fun to kind of teach this, because it kind of gives a big gamut of what it all is. These are just pulled from the Oil Painter's Color Handbook. And they're just that there are different color wheels. There's 3 dimensions of color, which I'm going to talk about the overlap between different color wheels, why they're all imperfect and flawed, and why, in my opinion, is that you can use any of them, because none of them are going to predict perfectly color mixtures, which is what artists mostly want them for. How to read a paint label, which I think is one of the most important things. This will just should alleviate confusion when you go to the art store and we start seeing random names like Sleeping Beauty Blue. And you're like, what is that? And you're like, oh, that's the magical color I don't have. It's probably not. And if I teach you how to read the paint label, you probably already have the color, and they're just selling you with a marketing name something you already have. So informative. There's actually, I think, an article that I'll share that was in it's either Artist Magazine or International Artist Magazine. How we experience color. Again, this is on the science side. You don't really even need to know this stuff. Like, knowing this doesn't make you a better painter. And that's why it's like, you got to be careful. Don't get too much into the science side. I think it's interesting. I love this side of it, the intellectual side. But painting is also, I think, as important to paint from the heart. We're visual poets. That's how I think about it. And the best scientist is not the best painter. So keep that in mind. I will go over it just so we understand how light works generally. Again, it's like a subway map, the way that I think of color. I put the slide over on the right because that's just showing colors across from one another when you mix them. This is why complementary mute mixing is not accurate. At least 9 times out of 10, when you mix whatever's across from the other one, depending on the wheel that you're using, you almost never get neutral, and that's what the prediction model is for color wheel in colors. We're going to talk about hue angle, which is really what a color string is, keeping it consistent so that you have a light to dark version if you're painting a tomato of a red form. The theory that a red tomato goes from red in the light to green in the shadow doesn't particularly make any sense. That's something I was taught, and I was always like, so why? I don't see it, so why are we doing it? And if seeing is believing, if you don't understand it, then you need somebody to guide you through, but it's not what happens. So you could use science to even measure it and show that it's just red, from light, red to shadow, and then we can add in other reasons why it possibly could change. Or if you're doing it because you want to be playful with color, which is a different thing. There's a difference between painting what you see, which is in front of you. I think even Charles Hawthorne said that. Paint what you see, not what you think you see. Max Ginsburg used to say that all the time in class. But then there's a playfulness, which again I say is like the expressive part of painting. And it's good to understand how to control it first before you express it. Just like writing. Like, you don't jump right into poetry. You work on your letter forms. My daughter's 7. She's doing all this stuff. And then later you're going to write poetry because it's much more difficult. Again, complementary mute mixing. I'm going to just talk about why it doesn't work on any color wheel model. Primary colors, again, it depends on the color wheel that you're using of what primary even means. We're going to talk about the differences in color wheels, differences in primaries, and this is where a lot of arguments happen, is that depending on the color wheel is what your primaries are going to be and what your complements are going to be. So here's 3 different wheels that are commonly used: traditional, additive, subtractive, and Munsell wheel. You can see that on the traditional wheel, red is across from green, which is what we've all been taught in grade school. Red is across from cyan in the additive subtractive wheel, and red is across from blue-green in the Munsell wheel. How could that be? Well, we're going to talk about that. But if you had 2 paints in those 2 different locations on each one of these wheels and you mix them, the prediction should be that you get neutral, and you don't. You don't on any of these wheels. Which is crazy, because that's really the most important thing for painters, is color mixing. Like, we're trying to figure out how to get the color that we see up in front of us. There's 2 different models. This is part of the theory. Again, this is a mini slide. I'm not going to get into additive versus subtractive, but they mix differently. If you were to take blue and yellow with lights, if you just had a blue light and a yellow light, and you overlap them, you get white. They actually do this in stage lighting. But when it gets to paints, if you mixed blue and yellow together, you wouldn't get black. Actually, you get more of a green. So there are 2 different systems that are happening, and we're using these models to say this should work. Why doesn't it? Because we're talking about a bunch of things at one time. So I'm going to help you isolate them so we can talk about them piece by piece and say, well, this model kind of favors this, and, you know, it's not that predictable. The crazy part of all this is that even 2 colors with the same, like, almost identical, and you see it here in this, these are 2 blue pigments that look nearly identical. When you add oil to them, that's Yinmin blue, a very rare pigment. You add oil to them, that changes them right away. Look at this, is going to stay as light, and then when you add it to the top, which is ultramarine blue, watch how dark this gets. So there's a lot that's happening, and I'm going to talk about this briefly in the mini lectures as we begin to kind of talk about color, that there's a refractive index. I'm not going to give you the refractive index. I don't want anyone to do math in this workshop, even though maybe some people wouldn't mind it. But it's complex. It's way more complex than if you were to look at this under a microscope, which we're not going to do either. I'm just going to show you some slides just to say it's a bit more complex. It's not as simple as we think. There's a complexity to it. We're also going to talk about ways that you can kind of build your own color wheels if you want to, or dissect things, pull them apart, put them back together. Michael Harding has color charts, which I love. And I buy them, and I took them apart, and I have them. So now I know exactly, you know, to a degree, what the color is if I go to buy it. So you can buy them. I don't know if they're 20 bucks anymore. Don't quote me on the prices in this, because, you know, all this stuff changes weekly. Here's some of my work that I've done. I do anywhere from portraiture to still life painting. You're probably familiar with this if you have any of the books, just because they're in it. They're in both of the books, and I do everything from cocktails to flowers to portraits, and narratives. All right, the materials needed. I mostly use Michael Harding and Gamblin and Treckel brushes. There's brush sets. All of this stuff is going to be posted in Slack. There's also stuff that you're going to need to set up the wheel. Again, if you want to take a look at it and you have the Oil Painter's Color Handbook, take a look. I think the second chapter is, or the first chapter is, how to make a color wheel. Everything's going to be posted in Slack, as I said, and it's in the book. So feel free to dig in and take a look. It should, if you don't have any colors, which I can't imagine anyone's here and doesn't have at least titanium white, it could cost you anywhere from $200 to $300. Titanium white, yellow ochre, burnt umber, ivory black, they're common colors you probably already have. The only one of those that's probably going to shift the most would be yellow ochre. You know, Rublev sells like 3 versions, I think, of the yellow ochre. Michael Harding sells 2. I prefer, you know, a little bit more chroma in it sometimes. So they're going to vary. I would just go with what you got, so you don't have to spend a small fortune on the Color Wheel Workshop. Keep in mind, I don't have the notes for every brand. And these can shift too. I mean, talk to Gamblin a lot. I talk to Michael Harding all the time. And sometimes he actually comes into the Zooms. I don't know if he's here now, but you know, the thing with pigments is that they will shift. And when Gamblin runs out of yellow ochre and they're trying to do a new batch of it, it could slightly shift. So things are going to change and notes are going to change, and my opinions change on this stuff too. So you may get difference in even what I wrote in the Oil Painters Color Handbook, which I wrote in 2020, and now it's 2026, which is frightening that it's been 6 years. It came out in 2022, by the way. All right, so there's a set that's on Trakell. I don't know how much it costs anymore, which is why I took the price off, because Courtney had people calling her saying, "Todd, put this advertisement in his slideshow. It's $5 more. Can you whatever?" I'm not getting into that. The price, go to the website and check it out. I'll have links for everybody, but everything changes and shifts and varies. So, all right. Again, I use Trakell, Gamblin, Michael Harding. That's not to say that any other brand is not good. There's plenty of good brands. I'm going to talk about brands and all that stuff as well. I also have sphere kits, and this is a photo of the sphere kit. That doesn't mean that's what you're going to get. You're going to get the 6 spheres, but I don't always have color wheel magnets, and I don't have 2 coasters. So, you know, don't quote me on the picture. Sometimes I'll throw in a goodie. If you buy one, I'll usually put in at least an 8-inch color wheel magnet. I got the Michael Harding ones now, so I may start putting those in as well. And Michael's really embraced it, and I'm good friends with him, so there may be an opportunity to have Michael come in and talk to the group. He's a wonderful, funny guy, and we've done webinars together, and I just assisted him at Lime Academy where I teach. I teach color theory there, and he came and gave a lecture to the group there. You could paint them yourself, or you could buy them. I'll put a PDF in Slack in showing you how to paint and the colors that I would recommend. Or you can buy them online and do it yourself. I can give you, again, there's a PDF with what the colors are. They're just acrylic paints. You can paint them in oil, but oil is going to take longer to dry. It actually oxidizes, doesn't particularly dry, polymerizes. Acrylic paints would dry fast, so I'd recommend acrylic. All right, and then you'll see that there's alternative pigments as well. You know, cobalt is probably the most expensive. In Michael Harding, it's somewhere, I don't even remember, and don't quote me on this, but it's somewhere like $80 for a tube. If you don't want to get that, I'll give a couple of alternatives like amethyst, which is more of organic modern color, which I'm going to talk about the difference between pigments as well. I love this quote. I always have to throw it in there. It should be recognized that arguments about color circles may lead to futile debates. Most such differences of opinions are meaningless. At best, a color circle represents a neatly arranged sequence of pure hues around an equator, and almost any well-designed arrangement has merit to it. All color wheels are flawed to a degree. And again, we're going to talk about it. I also love this one too, because we don't want to turn into scientists, so I had to put this quote in there as well. Too much discipline of temperament runs the danger of discouraging the spirit rather than leaving it happily free. Science is essentially intellectual, and art's essentially emotional. And this is by Faber Baron, who was the color theory guy for, you know, he passed away, but maybe 50 years. He was touring the world and giving color lectures. All right, the workshop price, if you're in it, if you're on Patreon and you're a subscriber, if you're paying, I know some people are on the free trial for a month. You don't get the discount unless you pay for a month. But Patreon subscribers get the workshop for $300. Non-Patreon subscribers is $350. And for watch only, it's $120 for the Patreon subscribers. Actually, I think it's $100. And $150 for Patreon, non-Patreon. The discounts for red, green, and violet, there are different tiers. If you're an alumni of the workshop, you get half off. So just shoot me an email, and we'll work out how to pay. And a lot of the time, people come back in, and they like the repetition of taking it over and over. All right. And an artist must have his measuring tools not in the hand, but in the eye, which is Michelangelo. This is not about using tools to measure or match or anything like that. I don't teach that. if that's what you want to do, then you're in the wrong workshop. I don't teach that. Ateliers don't teach that. Nobody is going up there with a spectrophotometer measuring things. I actually have a physicist in my class. She's going to bring it in because I'm curious. But Michael Harding doesn't even have a spectrophotometer. We don't do that stuff. I don't color match. I don't want to answer questions about color matching. I've never done it. Jacob's never done it. Max has never done it. Nobody I know that paints in an atelier has ever done it. The calipers should be in the eyes, not in the hands. All right, that's all I got for the info session, and now we can go to Q&A. So if you have questions, because we have a large group, I suggest putting them in the chat, and then Julie's going to read them, and then we will go through them one by one. Is that cool, Julie?
That's cool. Let me do that.
I'm going to put a link in there now while Julie gets ready on where it is on my website. There you go. If you want to.
The first one's from Carl Fietzik. Hope I got your name right. He was asking about which oil color producers you should use. I think you answered that in the video, but if you want to.
Yeah, and Carl, if you're here, you're more than welcome to unmute and you can ask it. Carl with a C or a K?
Okay.
Okay, all right, Carl. My Millennium Cup of 2000. We made it. Nothing shut down. All right, I'll answer it. Mostly I use Gamblin and Michael Harding, as I mentioned in the slideshow. And that's not to say that there's not good brands out there. Williamsburg is a wonderful brand. Natural Pigments is good. Old Holland is good. What I would suggest not using would be brands like Winton. Student grade paints are not going to help. Even like I teach a lot. And when I work with people that have Winton, it's like going to grab a baseball bat and somebody gives you like a sloppy noodle. And I'm like, I don't know how anybody can do anything with this stuff. So buy professional grade. Even if you're just at the beginning here, you need to learn what good is, and you're going to get used to some of those colors that they're just not good.
You may want to point out that the Gamblin has 2 lines.
Yeah, 1980 brand. If
It's
they're
their
here,
student.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you're here, Mary Devlin. But yeah, don't get that either. I have people in my class at night at Lime Academy that use it, and I do continuing ed there as well. I don't recommend that. I know it's all cheaper, but invest in good products, and you'll see that you don't have to buy. It's just like buying like a good toaster versus like the cheap ones. You're gonna buy 5 cheap ones, or you're gonna buy one good one. Like buy one good one. You'll get used to good paints. These all have high pigment loads. Winton, they add inert pigments in there, which are just cutting it. It's like putting stuff in food. Like you don't want imitation crab meat. You want crab, right? So there's a reason why things are cheap. Don't do that. Sorry if it makes anyone feel bad, but
Lori Ippolito
hey, Lori.
asks about how different manufacturers will have the same pigment number, but the hues are very different.
Yeah, you can unmute Lori. Hey, Lori.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Yeah. So the thing with it is that it's called the color index name and number, and I'm sure we've worked together a lot that have talked about it over the years. That's the thing, is that it's still much more complex than just like, oh, well, if you get the color index name and number, then you're fine. Not really. So yellow ochre is a wonderful example of that. It's PY43, I believe, which stands for pigment yellow 43. Originally, it was mined out of Italy, but now they had to change whatever quarry that they're digging it out of. Natural Pigment sells like a Blue Ridge version of it, which is, I think, in Virginia. But I don't know where the rest of the quarries are, but they're basically looking for the same chemical combination that is about that hue. but it can just shift. Pigment red 108 is another one for cadmiums.
Mm-hmm.
That's cad red light, that's cad red medium, that's cad red deep. They're all the same color index name and number. Pigment red 108 is what it stands for, and artiscreation.com is a wonderful resource to see all the color index name and numbers. Because it's cadmium fused with selenium, cadmium sulfoselenide is what it's referred to as. Because you can take that and you can throw it in a kiln or an oven, it can calcine and it can shift in color space. That's actually what they did in the Industrial Revolution of Europe, and why they started to get a larger range of colors and hues. So you can still have the same color that's just shifted depending on what you're doing with it chemically. You see it with phthalo as well.
Yeah.
That's why you can have ultramarine blue and a blue shade or a red shade, and they're almost pedantic how slightly different they are. But those are things I would say any ultramarine is pretty close to another ultramarine.
Mm-hmm.
But cadmium red across brands can get, they basically go, if Michael does come in, he talks about it. When he goes to the pigment manufacturer, they say this is cadmium red right here. And then he puts together a light and dark shade of it. And then he says this is cad red light or cad scarlet. They'll add names to it that are like one shifting towards orange.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still a bit nuanced, but you'll at least know that you're not going to go and buy Sleeping Beauty blue or something funny like no offense to Williamsburg, but they have a color called Fanchon red, so they put sexy names on things. But Fanchon red is naphthol red, and if you know that, you're probably not going to buy it because I have naphthol red. I think it's PR 188 or PR 112. There's multiple versions of what naphthol red is. Some have an extra P in there because they're the trademark, I think. But anyway, we talk about all that stuff. I think that's one of the most important things too. And in my classes, sometimes at Lyme, we just go right over to the school store, and I'm like, let's talk about this. I'm going to save you money. Now buy the good stuff, But Gamblin has a wonderful starter set, which is their professional line. I believe it's like $120, and like that to me is like a great starter set. That's where like when people are coming into my classes, I'm like, just buy that. We can add and subtract. You can try colors. It's an investment.
So, Daniel Holmes, he says the timing doesn't work out right now. Do you know when you're going to offer this again?
It's a great question. I don't. I don't plan too far in advance. I say that because I am traveling a ton this year. I'm actually writing another book. I'm editing this other book, and there's just a ton always going on. So I'll probably do it again, maybe in the fall. I want to layer a lot of color this year, so I think I'm just going to keep teaching different color classes. But I try not to do back-to-back workshops, mostly just because it gives time in between for people to fill them rather than have small amounts and over. Look for the fall. Newsletter is a good thing to sign up for in case you're not on it. That's where I communicate.
Okay. And Jacqueline Zimmer wants to know if you're going to talk about glazing.
No, glazing's a tough one. Glazing is like its own class and workshop. That's very much what the indirect method was kind of built around back in the day. But that's when it gets like almost like very, very complex because you're kind of crossing over into almost watercolor. That's the beauty of oil too, is that you're able to kind of do what all the mediums do in one. You can be transparent and opaque. Anyway, Jacqueline, I see you're nodding your head. You're more than welcome to speak. I didn't mean to just jump in.
No. I appreciate your insight on that because I've been experimenting with glazing. I don't know what I'm doing at all, but I notice how it changes how hues interact. And so I was just wondering if your class veers into that territory or if you just stay focused on the direct mixing.
It's mostly direct. I I am going to be building another class off of this, Color Wheel Workshop 2, and it's something to keep in mind. It's complex, though. And, the way that they used to do it was they would do a grisaille back in the day, and then they would glaze over the top. And the glazing over the top is almost like cutting a gel, like a colored gel over the top of something that's black and white, and it would look like it's in color. So you're transparently using, or you're using pigments that are transparent or transparent because of the medium that you're adding. Also, glazing gets complex because a lot of the time when you're glazing, you're adding a resin, an oil, and a thinner to it. So it's changing the complexity of it. And, there are big discussions of, how
I
to
get
do
that.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's something I will keep in mind and consider. And there are people that do it wonderfully. I think, is it Michael Wilcox? He talks about it in his book a lot.
Which you can't find.
There's a glazing book I have over there I need to get through. I don't particularly do it all that much. I do it when I'm painting something that is transparent, like a liquid. But for the most part, I paint mostly opaque. And that's how Jacob mostly taught us.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Watercolor feels like glazing.
Yeah. And then Teresa Buckaloo asks, she'll be traveling until February 14th. Will that cause her to be too far behind?
If you're asking for feedback, I would imagine, you should be fine. What does it start? The 4th? Let me look here. All right, January 4th, January 11th. So you'd miss 2 classes. If you're looking for feedback, then you may be a little bit behind. But if you're doing it as a view only and you want to get caught up, it really depends on what people's schedules are. And if maybe you want to binge watch it, I don't know. People binge watch everything on Netflix these days. Maybe you want to binge watch my color lectures and stuff. But, I think that's something for you to think about. The exercises can take 1 to 2 hours to do. The value scale is something I would say do it, and you need like a test to kind of see where you're at with it, and then I do it again and I would refine it, because a lot of what I do with the value scale is like at line when I teach it, I don't have them match things. I don't give them a value scale to match. I just say like, see what you can do at the beginning. We need to see where you're at. Do one. And then see if you can just get 9 values between, or 7 values between white and black. And then I have them match one. And then I have them do let's mix a neutral, and then we'll do one. And then I show them all 3 of them. And I'm like, you're not far off. It's just like if you're trying to get it perfect, then yeah. But no painter that I know tries to get anything perfect. So like you're naturally intuitive to get this. And the more now you're aware of it, you're going to get it. You're eventually going to be aware of it and where your bias is. Is it the light side or the dark side that you're not getting? And now you're going to align. And that's really what we're trying to do. So the value is something I'd say that sets up value in drawing is what sets up all representational art. That's why like indirectly you can go over with a color, and as long as you've nailed your values, you can commit crimes with color, as I say all the time. But I think you should be fine. 1 to 2 hours a week on these projects, I would imagine, is what I would say you'll need. I don't know. Anyone in here that's done them? Briley was here. Briley goes nuts. Briley actually did this wheel back here, and she's the one who like started to pull me into color nerddom, and she did like 3 or 4 the exercise 3 or 4 times a week. That's when you're going to get it. Doing anything one time is like a warm up. Imagine like Caitlin Clark or Steph Curry shooting. It's got to be like you just think of color. You're not even thinking of the form anymore. You're just like the form is part of it. That's the way you think, and now you're performing. Now I think Michael Aviano calls it painting is the performance, right? Mm-hmm. Kathy's here, so that's why she studied with Michael Aviano. who's still alive. He's 98. He's such a beautiful, wonderful soul.
Okay. So Liz Fraser asks, is the Michael Harding 8-inch magnet color wheel available in the UK?
Shoot me an email. I can get you one. I just have to add in like a couple bucks more to get it international. But they are not. And Michael and I are working together because Michael and Karen, Karen's his wife, they want to do more stuff together. I see Michael all the time. He actually doesn't live too far from me here in the United States. And we're working on maybe doing a little brochure that comes with Michael Harding. Some people, I get nasty emails that people have to pay for this stuff. It's like, I created all this artwork. It's my intellectual property. But Michael and I are trying to overlap so that he can distribute it. So
I'll put in a plug for the PDF. I got that.
Yeah, PDF's fine. You just have to print it, and then if your printer is off, then you're going to get slightly different color variations. But it's mostly a map,
I wanted it more for the mapping function because you still. I mean, personally, I still have to see the actual paint out of the tube.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
So Daniel Holmes asks, are the principles the same in acrylic and watercolor? Do you suggest these exercises for different mediums?
I actually would. And that's why I'd say, doing a string on for every medium that you use is really, it's stuff that's really going to warm you up to understanding whatever the medium is. So because watercolor is transparent, you're using the white of the paper as a way to have the light illuminate through it and bounce off the ground and come back up through it, right? If you painted watercolor on black, you wouldn't see anything. You would just see like maybe a little bit of color and from the side. Gouache is opaque, so it's a little bit closer to oil, but it dries matte, so you're going to get a difference in color. But the beauty of oil is that, you can go transparent and you can go opaque. And that's why I talk about mass tone versus undertone, another concept we're going to talk about. And you'll get different hues. The hue will shift depending on if you apply it thick or thin, or anything in the middle, or what the ground is for oil. To make a long story short, every medium is slightly different. Acrylic is close to oil, but it dries. It dries because it's actually evaporating. The water's evaporating out of it. Oil polymerizes. It's oxidizing. It's sucking in oxygen, so it skins over. There's nothing evaporating from it. Water does not get along with oil, so there's no water in it. When it dries, it doesn't typically dry and change all that much, but in acrylic, you're going to get a 10 to 20% change sometimes, where it usually gets darker. There's small nuances in every medium that just make them beautiful and unique. That's why I just did the media techniques class where we kind of oscillated through them all, and I talk about how to control it. But some will translate over. All the colors, if you were to plot them on white, would change location depending on the brand in watercolor. This is kind of crazy. So Bruce McAvoy has a lot on his website. Very informative website. Probably one of the ugliest websites I've ever seen in my life, and hard to dig through all the redonkulous amount of data he has. There's so much data. Another good website is Hue Value Chroma, which is David Briggs. Again, very, very, very informative and scientific. Mine, I try to keep as the nuts and the bolts of like, this is what you need. Like all that extra, I don't know if it's going to help you. Again, you don't need to know what the eye does. I think even Faber Barron said it. You don't have to know how to build a piano in order to play it. Like, you want to play the piano, and I think sometimes we get caught up in the weeds of it. Anyway, to make a long story short, they're all slightly different. I hope Bruce McAvoy's not here. Wonderful website, super informative. Talk about a rabbit hole that you'll go down, and it looks like a 1993 first website ever invented. It's like alt text, You'll see. Go to handprint.com .com or .org, whatever it is.
So I think this is the last question, unless maybe just somebody else. Marcel's asking about the class in Slack. Are you asking when the video is available, Marcel? Say, since the class is on Slack, can watch after the day.
Yeah, everything's recorded, and then I post it right into Slack within 30 minutes to an hour, depending, because sometimes my daughter's like, she's got to get to bed or something. Because it's on a Wednesday night, that's actually a possibility. Sometimes she'll actually come into the Zoom like she did yesterday. I should have it up within an hour or two. I think that's actually more fair to say. And then you can just watch it right away. You can watch it right in Slack, or you can go over to Vimeo and watch it over and over. I'm sorry that you'll have to hear my voice all the time, but hopefully it's not haunting. All right, there's I posted the links for everyone if you want to go over to the website. Such a long URL, but if you want to sign up. But it'll continually be in the newsletter too. This is recorded. It's going to be posted. You're more than welcome to rewatch. If you have questions, you can email me. Julie?
Yeah, I think Carl also just popped in. I'm not sure if it's a question or just a comment. In general, I have problems with the wording color wheel. What I see is a hue wheel. Maybe this is for my lack of English.
Yeah, it's just call it whatever you want. It's just a map. Call it a map if you want. A map of pigments. It's really like the Rosetta Stone, I should say, of light perception and it doesn't do all that stuff. But you're trying to this is your materials map of how to reorganize what you see and then now put it into the picture. So it's guiding you as to a light to dark version based off hue angle. A hue angle of 0 would be the north facing, and then I think it's at 20 degrees and then 40. Again, once you get into geometry and math, I'm not going to recommend anybody do any of that. It's more of just, if you're in New York City and you're trying to get to the Met, there's no train that goes to the Met, so you're forced with, what train do I get off? And that's really how you're navigating into color. Like, you're just like, I can't get off of the Met. I don't know why they don't have a train that goes there, but you get to take the 456 to 80th and then walk over 2 blocks. That's it. So that's what you're doing, is you're navigating between 2 points and now trying to get to your destination. It makes it much more simpler than, what I heard, which is like, if you're painting a lemon, it goes from yellow in the light to purple in the shadow. And then I would look at it all the time and say, well, I don't see that. And then it's like, and that's what the story at the beginning of the Oil Painter's Color Handbook was to take these concepts and dissect them. Where do they come from? We're going to talk about that. A lot of them come from Impressionism, which outside you may see it. In a studio, you probably won't. But there are a lot of perceptual things that are happening as well, like the stimulation of your cones, a thing called afterimage. So when you blink, if you stare at red and you blink, you're going to see cyan, and now you're overlapping that, what you see. And therefore, it's much more complex than that. If you want to be artistic about it and expressive, I would say that's fun to paint from, compliments are fun. I think it was, oh man, I forget who said it, but colors are friends of their neighbors and lovers of their compliments. Contrasts are wonderful in paintings. We find them enjoyable, and therefore be fun to make a lemon go from yellow to purple. That doesn't mean you see it. So my point is to show what you see, and you can control it, and then you can express after. And it's based off of an understanding of value, which is really what a string is built off of. It's the Rosetta Stone of, if you were colorblind, you would just see value. And that's where you would be committing crimes all the time. You wouldn't even know, but your value structure would be there. So that's why I coined the quote. I thought Michael Aviano said it, but he didn't say it. And now I guess I own the quote that if you nail your values, you can commit crimes with color. Is there more questions now?
Uh, no more questions. But Erwin's happy. He just got a message that his book arrived today.
Awesome. Yeah, it's on sale. I posted it on Instagram. It's like $27 right now.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was because it was in the 40s, I think, just a couple weeks ago when I looked. So I jumped on it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know how they make any money on it, but Amazon has a weird business structure, and to deliver it, somewhere in there, somebody makes money delivering it. But
And I just finished your still life book, so I'm on a roll.
awesome. And the still life book was first, and then um, a little backstory was that I serendipitously got that book, and then it sold out. I think because of the pandemic. And then my publisher was like, "You should write another one if you're interested." And I was like, "Really? My mother bought that many books?" And then she said, "Well, what do you want to what would you want to write about?" And I said, I actually gave her like 5 books I would do, and she said, "Pick one." And I said, "How about color? It seems to be much more complex than everybody wants to make it, and I feel like if maybe I can simplify it." And it's done well. I think the book's in its 6th, 7th, 8th printing now. Again, I didn't know my mother had that much money to buy all those, but I think there's proof that Erwin, you bought one, and maybe a few other people have. So
I think,
awesome.
I walked into a Barnes and Noble, they didn't have a large selection of art books, but that one, the cover caught my eye. And when I looked at what you were covering, I thought, oh, and it's laid out so that I could grasp it all. I was like, every night when I couldn't sleep at like 3 in the morning, I would read another few pages.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Those books are me from beginning to end. I mean, I put all the I every image was me putting it in there. I'm not taking all the credit because my editor and the designer did a phenomenal job. But the images and stuff are like my aesthetic. It gives me the opportunity to help others out that I think do phenomenal work. Put them in the book, and then also say this is what I think is good, but I'm not trying to craft anyone's taste. It's more of like this is an example of something I think is really good. Putting it here next to the thing. So I'm glad everybody likes it. It kind of doubles over as a coffee table book, or if you need to glue down something to a panel, you could use it as a paperweight.
So, I think it's Liz Fraser wants to know, do you have the time scale for the delivery of your new book yet?
I don't know. I'm gonna very openly say September 26th. That sounds very specific, but that's where we're at. The editing process is so grueling that every time I edit, I'm like, I am not writing another book. This one's been a little bit more pleasant, but there's been a ton more hiccups, which is just part of production. I would say September 26th would be fair to say, and I think it's actually going to come out earlier. So I have to touch base with the editor, probably will today. And she was like, we're on pace. Once I see the cover come in and I get the mock-ups, all that like, oh man, I'll never do this again turns into, this is awesome. And then Scarlett is my daughter's name, of course, named after a color. We've gone to Barnes and Nobles, and the coolest thing is when she's like, "Daddy, that's your book," and then we get a picture together and stuff. So it's cool. All right. Feel free to reach out if you have questions. The newsletter is the way I typically communicate. Facebook, I've been trying to be a little bit more active, even though it's so AI bot driven now and all kinds of weird stuff. And the same with Instagram. But, if you look for it, I'll have it on my website as well. Another place to find it. All right, everyone. Well, I hope to see you in the Color Wheel workshop. Take care. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you. No problem.
Bye, everyone.